Hi, I'm lawyer Jessica Bortnick, and welcome to Legal Juice, a vlog of legal information, education, and entertainment. Today I'm going to talk to you about the 4 types of wills that are legally valid in most jurisdictions around the world, and certainly here in Canada and in the United States. Now, first things first, a disclaimer. Although I am a lawyer, I am not your lawyer. Should you require legal advice, please seek the assistance of a lawyer licensed to practice where you are. Do not rely on anything you see in this video as legal advice, and do not delay in seeking legal advice based on anything you've heard in this video. And if you like this video and you want to see more content like this, please be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Now join me. There are 4 types of wills that are legally valid in most jurisdictions. I'm going to focus on those found here in Canada and those in the United States. But these may also be legally valid in many countries around the world, being the United Kingdom, Australia, and many European countries. The first type of will, which is most commonly thought of as the traditional will, is what is called a solemn or formal will. What is a solemn or formal will? Well, it's the type of will that a lawyer such as myself would make for you. It's fully typed up, dated, and signed by you, the testator, who signs in the presence of 2 witnesses who also must sign in your presence and each other's. Most people aren't aware of this, but you don't have to be a lawyer to make a formal or solemn will. Anyone with a computer, a printer, and 2 witnesses can make themselves a formal will. One caveat or warning here is that neither of your witnesses can be the executor or personal representative named in your will, as having such a person sign as witness will invalidate your will. Another thing to note is that neither of your witnesses should be a beneficiary named in your will or a spouse or partner of the beneficiary named in your will. The law very much frowns on undue influence, duress, and coercion, and estate law frowns even more so on the appearance of those pressures on the maker of a will. So if a beneficiary or their spouse or partner signs as witness to your will is still legally valid, but any and all gifts to them would be void. In other words, don't have your son or daughter-in-law sign as witness to your will if you are gifting any part of your estate to your son, even if he is what we call an alternate beneficiary, meaning someone who inherits upon the death of a prior named beneficiary. The second type of will I am only going to briefly touch upon because not many people will be eligible to make this type of will, and that is what is known as a military will. A military will can be made by anyone over the age of 16 years who is entering active service. The third type of will is called a holograph will, better known as a handwritten will. Handwritten wills are valid in most jurisdictions in Canada, the United States, and Europe, and may be upheld in special circumstances in the United Kingdom and Australia. Handwritten wills must be wholly in the testator, meaning the maker's own handwriting, signed by the testator, dated, and there are no witnesses. In fact, if a witness signs a holograph or handwritten will, it invalidates that will. Believe it or not, many estate planning lawyers have made holograph wills for themselves. I occasionally recommend a client make a holograph will if they decide suddenly that they want to make a will before they leave for a vacation and they're not able to come into my office to see me before they go. Now, be very careful to meet the legal requirements in your jurisdiction for making a holograph will. I had a married couple come into my office a number of years ago, and they had heard that the wills and succession legislation had changed in our jurisdiction. They wanted me to review their holograph will they made 30 years prior to ensure that it was still legally valid with the change of new law. When they sat down with me, I asked them to show me their wills. Instead of them each handing me a will, the wife handed me one document handwritten entirely by her and signed by both her and her husband. I didn't even need to look at the document to know that neither of them had a legally valid will. Now, for some reason, there is a misconception out there that couples can make a will together in one document. I've heard lay people call this a joint will. However, to burst their bubble, I must say, at least here in Canada, there is no such thing as one will for 2 people. In Canada and in most jurisdictions around the world, each person must have their own will. In Canada, we can make mirror wills and mutual wills, which are sometimes referred to as joint wills, but those are still one will per person, resulting in 2 wills for a couple. Each person must have their own will. So besides my clients bringing in one will for 2 people, which isn't legally valid for the reasons I just stated, for her, it was arguable that she had a holograph will, but it was invalidated because her husband also signed it. The fourth and final type of a will is called a hybrid will, also known as a will kit. A hybrid will is a cross between a formal will and a handwritten will. It is a typed up document with spaces that you handwrite into. Now, will kits are good if you're the type of person who A, reads instructions, B follows instructions, and C does not add anything that is not in the instructions. And if you're the type of person who does not read through instructions front to back before playing with a new toy, then I'm sorry, my friend, but a will kit is not for you. If you are attempting to save yourself some money while you are still alive by using a will kit, then you're going to cost your estate a pretty penny after you die. And it's the old adage of pay me now or pay me later, but if you pay me later, you're going to be buying me a new sports car. Among the many issues will kits face, the biggest issue is that people don't properly execute them. Some don't realize that they need two witnesses, nor do they realize that those witnesses should not be certain people like the named executor or a beneficiary or a spouse of a beneficiary. Similarly, what happens when the handwritten entries of the maker are scratched out and changed? It may be difficult for a witness to remember 20 or 30 years later if that scratch and change was made before they signed as witness to the will or after. If the change was made after, then it is not valid as there were no witnesses to that change. If you want to know more about the problems with using a will kit, be sure to subscribe and ring that bell to be notified of my next video for release that goes over in more detail the problems with will kits. Thanks for watching.